Hi, my name is Michael Nunneley, and welcome to another episode of The Art of Making Comics. Now, today I want to talk about keeping the story fluid and interesting to the reader when it comes to writing comics specifically. Now, we've talked a bit about how it's important to keep the pages interesting. You know what I mean? As you're turning through, you want to, if you can, you want to leave a reason at the bottom of each page, to make the reader turn. Well, in that same fashion, you have to allow for some deeper mental involvement in the story. Without doing that, the story can lack luster, put simply. And so, to accomplish that, you put little subplots in there, other things that are going on. You want world building stuff happening in the comic along with the main plot of your story, and that makes for not just a greater intellectual engagement into the story, but when you add subplots like that, you can actually you emotionally invest more in a story, because emotions require getting to know things, and just like any story, the reader's got to get to know it before it gets emotionally invested. And so you want to try and tell, you've got to engage them intellectually and emotionally to really impact them in a story. And the best way to do that is keep two stories going in a comic. You can put in hints of a third one, but you can't really go into a third story without it starts to get convoluted at that point. Like one isn't quite enough to really have that depth of punch, and three is too much going on, because now I got to keep track of multiple. That doesn't work. A lot of people can keep track of a main story plot and a secondary subplot. Now that subplot can change from comic to comic. Like you can tell, okay, well, the subplot in this issue is going to be the setup for this, and then the subplot in this issue is going to be the setup for this, and that way, you can still spread around the story, but you don't have to add more than two elements. Now, for my story, like for instance, the characters I made with Omen Comics, I had so much story to tell that there was no way to get it all timeline-wise told in the story, and without making it 17 subplots in a story and 3 or 4 main storyline. I didn't know how to do that in one, and so I did what I think is the most obvious solution, and I broke it into multiple titles. I took what was one big grand story with several characters and broke it into 5 titles with a 6th title to tell little side stories and subplots and stuff like that. And I want to encourage you to be able to try that too. You want to keep a story interesting. You want to keep it fluid, and you don't really want to mess with that 2-story formula. In my opinion, as a former reviewer, as a writer, I think that's just the sweet spot you want to go for there. So another way to keep issues going in a fluid fashion, especially when you're talking about comics. As we've talked about before, is you have to have some sense of conclusion at the end of the comic. Either something in there something major in the comic has to have happened, or and when it actually happens has to be the end of the comic there. Or you can, like I did with Omen 2, for instance. I had the major part of the event happen first, and then I set up issue number 3 with the last several pages there. So I did do the complete. I gave the sense of a completeness when it comes to finishing the setup for the story. But then I also elaborated on the setup for the next story, and that helps too, because you're making the next issue come across more fluidly. Anyway, I hope this helped, and if it did, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. I really love passing on what I've learned here. If you guys got any tips that you can offer me, I'd love to hear them too. Live long and prosper, guys. Have a good one.